So firstly, let's finish the software generation of last class. At the end of our last class, we talked about we had five generation development about this software development from the 1951 till nowadays, right? And from the very beginning, when the machine language was used for the programming, and where the binary number system are used to construct such kind of instructions for the machine language. And we also had this assignment for our last class, right? I asked all of you to write the machine language for output your own name in the computer in this PEP 8 virtual computer. Okay. So at that time, all the programmers, they directly write these binary numbers to construct the instructions so that the instructions can be applied to the computer to accomplish further complex tasks. So since each instruction can only accomplish a very simple task in the computer, so at that time you can imagine, right, the programming would be quite difficult for the human beings to understand. They need to check the instructions for different computers, right? We said in our previous class, the machine language, the instructions are built into the computer, the binary strings. And it is depend on the specific computer. And then another language that named as assembly language and its translator. The translator is to translate the assembly language to the machine language. Okay, so at that time, the assembly language came up. It can use some mnemonics so that we human beings can read these instructions more easier than the machine language. So it need a translator. And both these languages, we call them low-level programming languages. And all these programming languages came up in the 1951 to the 1959. And at that time, in fact, the programmer are divided into two groups. The first is those who develop some application programs, and the second is those who develop some system programs like the autotays or operating systems. Okay, so at that time, for all the users of the computer are mainly the programmers, while the programs can also be divided into two groups. So we can see in this figure that the machine language is the core of the computer, which is written in these binary strings, and the assembly language include this machine language. It is for these system programmers, they write the assembler to translate it. And for these application programmers, they use this assembly language to solve these problems. As we said, there are two kinds of programmers, and they do different jobs. Okay, so and then for the next 5 years, it go to the second generation where some high-level programming language came up. Okay, so at that time, some system programmers, they write the translators for this high-level programming language. So do the translation to the machine language. While these application programmers use these high-level languages to solve problems, they write some application softwares. Okay, and at that time, some English-like statements made these programming much easier than previous, like Fortran language, which is also used now till now today. Okay. And then for the next 5 years, we call it the third generation. And at that time, there came up a lot of system software we have learned also in our previous classes, like some OTT programs, some language translators, some operating systems. And such operating system decide which program to run and when to run, right? It manage all the resources for the computer, and it is the interface between the computer and the hardware. And at that time, about the users and the hardware are separated, right? They are separated. At that time, the computer programmers write some programs to be used by the general public, for example, the non-programmers. That means at the third generation, there came up to some users who do not do the programming, but just use these computers. Okay, so at that time, the program serves for these program users. Okay, so it is more not only for the army or for some, for some to create some weapons, that kind of usage. At this generation, it becomes much more general public use. So we can say from the machine language to the assembly language to the high level language, then it came up with some system software, and then it came up with some application packages as such kind of layers. Okay, so for the fourth generation, for the following 10 years, the programming also came up some new development. There came up to some structured programming language, like some high level programming languages. And there came up very many new application software for these users, for much easier and better to use our computer for more calculations or for management, for the financials or other usages. So they came up with like spreadsheets, like word processor, like database management systems. And nowadays, all these softwares supposed to be has developed to be, for example, the Microsoft Office, right? The Microsoft softwares or the Office softwares, or also in our China we have like WPS, which is similar to the Microsoft Office application software, which contain all these important important functions. Okay, so as it developed to the fifth generation, that is from the 1990 to nowadays. This is also the year I was born. Okay, so it has been like more than 30 years till nowadays. And for this fifth generation, and it is also still developed. One of the most important thing is that some object-oriented design languages, which based on some hierarchical of data objects like Java or C++. Okay, some kind of such kind of high-level programming language. And for example, nowadays, in fact, we have much more easier programming languages like Python, right, which is also still in the developing. Okay, and we can see that the Microsoft, right, the Windows operating system, like most of your computers, and some Microsoft application programs, like the Office we have mentioned, they dominate the market. And in the following classes in this course, we are also going to learn such kind of application programs, how to use them, and in much more detail, and we need more practice. Another important feature in such kind of generation, in this generation, was the internet development. So that is the 3W, World Wide Web. So the 3W allows very easy global communication through the internet. For example, for today, as an example for like today's class, we include many students and me. We are from different countries, and it is actually a global communication, right? We took this class through the internet. That was for thanks to the 5th-generation software development, the fast development of this internet. So nowadays, we have also new users. All the users nowadays for the computer, they in fact doesn't need much computer knowledge, which means the knowledge we learn from this class, right? Before we learn all this knowledge, you can also be a computer user. You can also use your computer to do a lot of like entertainment or help in your homework or something like that. And of course, knowing more knowledge would be great helpful. For example, if you know something about the programming, or if you know how it works in the underlying, what's the underlying principle in the computer, how does the abstraction functionality of this computer construction, and for example, like the volume architecture, right? Like the hardware components of the computer, and like the circuit, or the very fundamental the binary system, what's operates underlying behind this computer, make it works. Even though we do not need to know such kind of computer, nowadays the user can use this computer for their daily life, for the entertainment, for their daily life's job. It doesn't matter. So this is how the computer develops very fast from the 70 years ago to nowadays. It's less than 100 years, but the software has developed much, has a lot of changes. So we can have this map. The programmer and the user can be divided into two types, right? The system programmer and the application programmer. So the system programmer build the tools like the translators, like the compiling software, like the application software, like the operating system. They build such kind of tools. While the application program, they use some tools developed by the system programmer, like the translators, like the compilers, like the operating systems, anyway. And then they use such kind of tools to use some programming language, and then develop some application programs. And this is mainly from the first, like the 3 generations, and when it developed, then it comes up some specific domain-specific programs, which has some users that do not need to have any computer background.